Welcome to our first edition of Puck Online, bringing you a quick summary of all the major news and events for public cloud space. Every month we'll come to you online in video, podcast and blog formats, as well as an in-person event every quarter in Vancouver, Canada. Today I'm broadcasting with the beautiful view behind me of Vancouver's BC Place Stadium, and behind it, if you're looking close enough on the video broadcast, you might be able to see Mount Baker on the US side. Lots of news to cover this month, so let's get into it. So in general, Bisma, a software-based cloud company, announced that back in August they were hacked. Their focus is in finance and HR, and the way the hack was perpetrated was through a Citrix remote client. Now they've said that no client data was compromised, only their internal company data. In other news, Sophos purchased Avid Secure. This company was only founded in 2017. The thing that Sophos is going for here is that their focus is for protection on AWS, Azure and Google. So you can see why it'd be an attractive company for them to look for. Cisco announced some new things around IoT on the developer space and in products. For the developer space, they've got DevNet IoT Dev Center, which will get easier integration for developers' apps. And then on the product side, they've got some new switches and routers that have a focus for IoT. SAP's SaaS business is going well. In Q4, the results were very good for their SaaS side, but for their legacy software, not so well. Salesforce announced that their purchase of the company Datorama 6 months ago is now going to be integrated to their marketing cloud. So now there'll be better data-led APIs and metrics for marketing. A survey that was just released this week looked at the public sector and the adoption of cloud and barriers and other pieces there for public sector. And they found that emergency services, not really surprising, are the slowest adopters to the cloud space. What I found really interesting was universities are the fastest adopters, and I've definitely been seeing that in the space. Probably comes down to traditionally universities using a lot of open source, so it probably fits in well with a lot of frameworks that are already published around cloud. In news around Oracle, Bloomberg came out with an article that really dug deep into their data cloud and how it's fallen behind in the cloud space. Now, Data Cloud looks at tracking people online. Over the last 5 years, they've invested $3 billion into this. And really, I feel it's the data privacy that's starting to bite them here. A year ago, their account reps were doing about 40% of their business in this space around Facebook. And now that looks like the profits there are plummeting due to privacy concerns. Oracle also opened a data center in Abu Dhabi, which is going to be looking after the UAE and the Middle East. And then also their MSP partner program, which they had open for applications. They've now announced that they've closed due to overwhelming demand and the fact that the program has reached capacity. However, they are leaving it open till the end of the month, which does kind of raise the question of, is it at capacity? But my guess is that they're projecting that it's going to reach capacity, but just holding out a little bit longer to give those serious about it a chance to get their applications in. On the Google side of things, Google's announced on the financial side that business has doubled with GCP in the last 12 months. No details were released there, so we'll just have to take their word on that. They also have looked like they're getting into the major sports sponsorship here. I mean, Microsoft has the NFL football, AWS has Major League Baseball, and it looks like Google's going after the basketball fans out there with sponsorship of the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors will also be using Google for their analytics and machine learning. The Telegraph newspaper in the UK has decided to move their core business IT over to GCP. Their CIO said that one of the main reasons that they moved to Google was just because they were hungrier than the other competition. Google has also announced a $15,000 contest. Now, don't get too excited, it's not cold cash, it's just in GCP credits. And it's also interesting, the deadline for this new competition is on April Fool's Day. The goal for it is to find a novel use case for data usage in the cloud, with a focus on their relatively new open source framework for confidential computing, which is called Asilo. Finally, Google launched a password checkup and cross-account protection solution. So if you're looking for something a bit more in alerting, I know I've seen this with credit card companies out there now doing this, where you want to know if your username or password has been leaked. They now have a Chrome extension that'll help you out with that. So on the Microsoft front with Azure, there's been for a while now a free access with no login needed to Azure Service Fabric. Well, those days are over. Tying in your application with no login and no costs is over. They started doing this back in 2015. First, it was 2 hours of access you'd have before your data got wiped, and then got back in again. Then they reduced it to 1 hour, and now it looks like that has stopped. But you can still use Service Fabric if you set up your Azure account and use it that way. The purpose of Service Fabric is just giving you clusters of containers or microservices that your application can tap into. Also on Microsoft front, they've got a focus on different industries, and one of the industries that they had a lot of announcements for in the last month was around hospitals. So Microsoft 365 for hospital teams, Azure API for health record sharing, and Healthcare Bot. Azure Data Lake Storage and Azure Data Explorer have now been moved to general availability, and also Microsoft bought Citus Data, which is a company that's going to let them tap more into PostgreSQL, making their solutions more scalable, not only for cloud, but mainly for on-premise is this movement. For Amazon AWS, on the financial side, they announced that their revenues reached $7.43 billion. That's an increase of 45% year on year. Now that they're bigger than McDonald's, this also makes them the equivalent size of Azure, Google, IBM, and Alibaba combined. Although that is debatable, the way that all these companies release their numbers, it's always hard to tell. Neo AI code was released as open source, so they're probably doing this in order to increase the amount of hardware that is supported by machine learning, TensorFlow, hook-ins, and things like that with AWS in the back end. Another big one was that AWS purchased CloudEndure. I know I've been using CloudEndure with clients for many years now, and this sort of fills a gap that AWS had, where Azure had their ASR for DR, and now AWS will have CloudEndure in there natively. Although there are a lot of other third-party solutions out there as well that you can use. T3 instance compute support has now come in RDS for Oracle and PostgreSQL. GPU support for ECS. This is a bit of a big deal in that GPUs are great for doing a lot of number crunching, and before the manual process of setting up a EC2 with GPUs and having to manually bind them together caused a lot of problems, and now you'll be able to schedule those GPUs and pin the physical GPUs, getting the best performance out of those ECS. Custom scripts for AppStream 2.0. So this is running scripts automatically when an app for the end user starts or ends. So you could tie this into end users, customizing their app experience, creating logs or doing a cleanup of files and moving them to other areas when the user exits the application. AWS step functions can now run locally, so you can download a jar file or a Docker, sometimes faster, running it on-premise, but main reason would probably be to be able to get better control of your sandbox environment. And finally, for AWS, a new service called WorkLink. So what this does is it provides an application on your users' mobile devices, and it'll let them access your internal websites and web applications. One-click access without having to do anything like a VPN or any complicated steps for the end user. And best of all, no data is stored on the actual mobile devices themselves. All it's doing is streaming the visual of the web application. So coming up in cloud events shortly, we've got DockerCon, which is on April 30th to May 2nd in San Francisco. There's Google Next, which is April 9th to 11th in San Francisco. And then we've also got our public cloud user group on March 7th in Vancouver, Canada. If you are interested in that event, check out meetup.com/publiccloud and become a member, so that once we publish the details around that event and allow you to RSVP, you'll get notified straight away. So this episode was made possible by Scalar Decisions, who are a leading Canadian IT provider focused on security, infrastructure, and cloud. If you're looking for a change in employment and wouldn't mind working for one of the best companies in Canada, they're known for their fun culture and solving IT issues others struggle with, then Scalar has a lot of openings due to the strong growth, especially in security and cloud. If you think we've missed anything, let us know in the comments section below. Our next episode will be in about a month's time, so make sure to subscribe so that you can get notified. Till then, keep challenging yourself.